Relax, the keyboard is off, the press box is closed, and the mic is just getting warmed up as the guardian of the blue paint turned writer is about to enlighten us. The show where the writer is fresh off the presses and the ink is not dry. For this week's show, moving on, moving up, and moving out. The Flyers season so far. Welcome to the Hockey Writers Inc. Join Lance and Steel as we bring you all the latest on the Flyers.
Hi guys, welcome back to another edition of the Hockey Writers Inc. I'm your host, Lance Green.
And I'm your co-host, SteelFlyers. And boy, oh boy, we got another great one lined up for you again tonight, don't we, Lance?
I think so.
I think we do. Well, you know, it's only fitting because Lance writes the great articles. So, hey, that gives us a great show every week, right?
Yeah, and this week especially, I think I wrote two different articles that really touched on some different things that have been involving the Flyers' problems for a long time, and the main source of them possibly, and some issues at hand that we may need to look to take care of sooner rather than later.
I'm agreeing with you on that 100%. And for this week's show, moving on, moving up, and moving out. The Flyers season so far. And Lance put out two great articles once again. Both out on flyersnitty-gritty.com. And the first article we're going to talk about was just posted just a few short days ago. And I think this article is very poignant because I think it explains a lot about what's going on currently with the team and what potentially is going to be the issues in the future moving on. Okay, so right. This article, Bad Scouting and Lack of Player Development, the real reasons for the Flyers' failure over the years. And Lance, I can't tell you how you hit the nail on the head with this one, my brother. All you have to do is look at the farm system, look at the AHL, and look at the prospect pool for the Philadelphia Flyers. And right away, there are huge red flags that are jumping off all over the place, like you specify in your article. I mean, this article was detailed down to the minutest of details. And this is why I love your articles, Lance. This is why I love reading your stuff, because you pay attention to those little details. You're tuned in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I get it. I spent a lot of time on this article, and I spent a lot of time going back and researching and laying down the groundwork to prove my points. When I bring up an issue, most of the time when you read my article, even if you don't maybe want to agree with me, you can't deny the facts that I lay out.
Yep.
Boom, 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 one right after another, on why I think this way, or why most of the fan base that potentially reads my articles feels the same way. I try to be a voice of the people, and not just write feel good stories about the team because they been losing and such. So I'm gonna put it out there. Like it is, like it or not.
Exactly.
This is what's going on, and I think this article did for sure.
I agree. This is why we have this platform, Lance. This is why we have the Hockey Writers Inc., because we are going to give you a perspective that is somebody who writes about the team and somebody who not just watches the team but studies the team. Is a student of the team, I've been watching this team since 1993. Okay. And I can honestly tell you that I've seen better teams.
That's an understatement.
With less talent. I've seen better teams in Philadelphia with less talent.
With more heart.
More heart.
Not Carter heart.
You're not Carter heart, right? But more of the thumping kind of heart. You know what I mean? And the laundry list of players that have entered the organization since, say, 2010, right? There does not seem to be but maybe a handful of players that have actually contributed to the team and are actually still even on the team.
Right.
You know what I mean? And the exception of a couple players from Hextall, I mean, with what you point out in this article, let's get into this, man. Tell me about the laundry list of players that is a perfect example of why and what's going on with this team.
Oh, sure. Well, the whole basis of the article, going back to it, was how the coaching staff, AV, etc., got fired. And yet again, they blame the coach. And while I believe he did lose the locker room and he probably needed to go at that point,
yeah,
we've seen it time and time again with, former Stanley Cup winning Peter Laviolette, who's since gone on and had some great success after he got fired. Craig Berube, who immediately went to St. Louis and won a Stanley Cup there. And now AV, on top of numerous other coaches that had maybe a little less success, but the same thing was the case for these teams. And the problems for these teams are long rooted in the fact that there is poor, scouting, bad scouting and poor development, player development. And that's what stems that is so hard to get this team going. When you look back from the time they since last drafted Giroux, 15, 16 years ago,
yeah,
they now have what to show for him. Giroux is 33 years old.
Yeah.
He's maybe contemplating retiring, probably coming back somewhere, maybe not to the Flyers, and we'll get to that later on in the show. But since then, Ron Hextall, we thought was going to come in, and he was a draft guru, so to speak. And you look at the past failures. German Rubestov in 2016 was a first round pick. Why the team still has him signed, I have no clue. But he's really done nothing since getting selected. Pascal Labarge is playing in the ECHL somewhere. Second round pick that same year. Just a couple picks before Alex Dembercat of Chicago was taken. Obviously, it's easy to play couch cushion GM years later.
I believe you're talking about Alex DeBrincat. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I was woo!
Yeah.
All right.
So, but you go on through that, and, it's not just Ron Hextall's guys that have come in. Chuck's made some pretty sketchy early selections as well. He has selected rather well later on the draft.
In the later rounds.
In the later rounds. In 1 year alone, he's selected, Wisdom, Dejournay, and McLennan. So promising prospects, but probably not guys that are going to be in a Flyers uniform next season.
That's probably true. Or they're probably not going to be hanging with a big, giant 200-foot banner from the side of the building.
Exactly. As we talked about before.
Right.
So, but if you look back at Chuck's latest early draft picks of the first round or a second round pick, the first pick of last year was Tumala. And, a lot of people had him slotted in at that late first round. And a lot of people thought that this was a good pick, and it potentially still can be. But when you look at other guys that were still out there, and a guy I liked, Billy Couvenin, and who I had in my mock draft articles as a team needing to select, they've since came on, and he was selected by the Hurricanes, 51st overall. Yeah. And, he's looking at 18 points in 28 games at the time I wrote this article over in the Liga right now. Mm-hmm. Tumala is playing over there too because he couldn't hack it in the AHL and was sent back, and he has nowhere near that. And he played in a little bit last season where Couvenin didn't. And, you also look at the guy who was taken in the 52nd overall pick with Ratty. The Islanders selected him. He was before the season started for their draft year, he was potentially the #1 overall draft pick, but his team played him in the Liga, the top league over there, and last season or the year he was drafted, and he suffered for it. He wasn't quite ready. So he was taken much later, but he has since really came on as well, returning back to the Liga. And then you continue on and you look back, a questionable pick with Emile Andre, a diminutive, left-hand shot defender. Why are we drafting left-hand shot defenders still when we have a slew of them in our system already? I don't know.
And he's under 6 foot and under 200 pounds. I mean,
yes,
what?
Yeah. And I mean, it's questionable because you had a sharpshooting winger in Tristan Robbins that was taken by the Sharks, just picks afterwards. You also had a guy who I really liked and wanted the Flyers to select with their #2 overall pick in Will Cooley, who was taken by the Rangers. And, he's a big 6'4", 210-pound winger, and he can really shoot the puck as well. Really physical player for the Windsor Spitfires. And he's excelling as well, more so than Emile Andre, who went to the SHL and was sent back down to the minors over there in Sweden because he couldn't hack it.
Yeah.
So, it's just a really, really big deal there when you're looking at these guys who are high-end Flyers draft picks and they're not excelling. They're not turning into anything. Year after year after year. I think Rubinstoff's 6 years removed from being drafted, and he's still struggling in the AHL.
Yeah.
So at some point, the fingers gotta stop being pointed at the goaltending and the coaching, and realizing that, hey, we're not developing young talent like we once thought we were.
And we're not scouting.
And we're not scouting. We're not scouting to select the right players. And maybe this isn't, I got a lot of this response, but I don't think this is a lot across the board for any Philadelphia team.
Yeah.
But we're talking Flyers hockey here, so we'll get back on track. But the only people that did excel early on, since maybe Giroux's been selected, was guys that could immediately jump in or very short thereafter being selected and turning pro. Is like guys like Sean Couturier, Travis Konechny, Ivan Provorov, and Joel Farabee. And all those guys are good players, really good players, but they're not guys, like you said, and like we talked about before, who should be having their face hung off the side of a building to attract people in from the highway. So that's a problem. That's a real problem, guys, because besides those guys who jumped up right from juniors, or Fairby maybe spent a couple of games down there in Lehigh and jumped up after coming in from college, there's really been nobody. And a lot of players have taken a huge step back. And since turning pro, where guys like the 2020 first-round Flyers pick in Tyson Forester, who has possessed an NHL shot since he was probably 16.
Yeah.
He scored 36 goals in juniors the year he was drafted, but now he's operating at a 0.33 point per game average in the Phantoms right now, where last season when he first came up and came up as a young player who shouldn't even have been there if it wasn't for COVID, he was operating at a 0.70 point per game.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
almost getting towards a point per game average. So you look, that's regression once he turned pro. So where's the development at? Cameron York is another one. 2019's first overall or first, pick for the Flyers. And you look at where he came from. He was amazing, over a point per game player for the United States developmental program. And, 65 points in 63 games, I think it was. And then he went on to have an amazing 2 years at University of Michigan. As you said, you saw a lot of his games or tried to attend,
Yeah, yeah.
to tune into a lot of them, and amazing player down there. And then he went on to the World Junior Championships for Team USA and was voted captain, and led them almost at a point per game there as well. Uh,
I'm
and
noticing a theme here, man.
so what happened when he turned
Gets to the
pro?
Flyers, yeah.
What happened? He's struggling. He's struggling. He's a minus player.
Yeah.
He's struggling to score points. I mean, yes, it's a pro level now, but this is a player that was elite talent
Yeah.
in college and before being drafted, and now just struggling to make it. And you know, is he going the same route that Morgan Frost and another guy, and Isaac Radcliffe, went the 2017's first and second round Flyers draft picks.
Right. Where are they?
Morgan Frost is making it up in the Flyers right now. With COVID, he's out, but he's finally catching some games. But he's having to be thrown on a line with Giroux just to get any point production out of him. And heck, I think I could score 20 goals a season if I was playing with Giroux.
I mean,
all you got to do is stand in front of the net, and he's going to give you the puck.
Right.
But that's sadly not what Morgan Frost has been able to do. It's been some years. It's been 5 years since he was drafted. Exactly. And he was a back-to-back 100-point scorer in the OHL. He was supposed to be our next Claude Giroux, if you think about it, with Nolan Patrick, who was supposed to be something as well.
Right.
Turn out to be anything.
Is that what the love affair is with Frost? What is the deal with this? Look, all you have to do is look at Twitter and look at social media and look at everybody is clamoring for Morgan Frost this and Morgan Frost that. And yet I haven't seen him worthy of all of their accolades or attention.
Well,
I can't be the only one that, I guess I am.
You're definitely not.
Yeah, but no, but I mean, like, everybody else is saying, oh, Morgan Frost is so great and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I just don't see it.
I don't. And this is a player that should have been up a lot sooner. And his development's been delayed ever since turning pro. And yes, he's been injured. But in the same token, he should have been up by now. Other teams that are drafting, players in the first round, they're having guys up a year or two later, and not even the guys that are drafted top 5 overall, top 10 overall. These are players that are drafted in similar spots. Year in and year out, they're up there. They're turning NHL stardom. Yeah. And we're still stuck with Morgan Frost as to lay our hopes and dreams on. And that's why I think Philadelphia Flyer fans are putting all their eggs into his basket, because there is nobody else to really put all their hopes and dreams into to get them out of this slumping
He ain't going to be the one.
And he's not going to be the one either.
Nope.
And Isaac Radcliffe was a 50-goal scorer. He was a 6'6" player and over 200 pounds when he was drafted.
Yeah.
And now he's been 40 years with the Phantoms now, and he's only managed to score 11 career professional goals. Something's wrong with the development of these young players. Not every prospect is gonna produce to pan out to the point that the team that drafted him hopes they will be. Not everyone is. We get that, guys, but none of them are turning out.
Do you know what? All you have to do is look at one specific player, and this will tell you exactly what's going on. Sean Couturier in juniors was over 100 points for what, 3 of his seasons? Right?
Yeah, it's been some time. Yeah, I would have to look it up. Yeah.
Something like that, right? 90 to 100 points in 3 of his seasons. He has yet to score more than 30 goals since he's been a Flyer. Has he even scored 30 goals? No. Has he come close? Maybe. But here's a guy who was lighting it up in juniors, and now he comes to the Flyers, and now what is he? He wins the Selke for the best defensive forward.
Well, I think that's a big problem of the Flyers too. The organization as a whole likes to change their prospects into something that they're not. Sam Morin was a scoring offensive defenseman before the Flyers selected him, and now he's made to be this big lumbering guy on the back end that just stands people up. Yeah. And but he could skate, he could play before all his injuries. Mm-hmm. So many players. NAK was an elite goal scorer before the Flyers got a hold of him and made him a grinder on the fourth line. And now he's kind of excelling with Colorado a little bit, even though he still takes dumb penalties. But, there's just numerous times all over, Philadelphia Flyers past 10 to 15 years where they just want to change the players. How many times Scott Lawton was a center, now he's a wing. Claude Giroux was a center, he was a wing, now he's back to being a center. Draft the players you need. How about that? How about if you need a winger, draft a scoring winger?
Hey, what do you know? There's a novel concept.
Instead of trying to convert them to be something that they're not. Oh my
gosh, man. Look, this just goes to show you. I said this on a show a little while ago. You could take the number of players that have left the Flyers and gone on to win Stanley Cups. You could make a team of players made up that left the Flyers that went on to be successful and win cups in other teams. Now, that to me says that, okay, the scouting might be good. They're at least scouting these great players, but then they get to the inside the organization and the development is like, so you're a defenseman. Can you cook?
Would you like to play wing?
No, yeah.
Sam Morin.
Or so you're a defenseman. So how would you like to cook? What? Wait a minute. I play hockey. Hold on. You know what I mean? Like that's what's going on here, I think. And until this team makes those kinds of changes, these are fundamental changes. These are foundational changes of this organization that need to be made. Scouting departments need to be addressed. Development departments need to be addressed. Coaching needs to be addressed. Management needs to be addressed from all the way from the very tippy top to all the way to the very bottom. This team, as far as I'm concerned, needs a fire sale. They need to start over from the ground up, be an expansion team again. Yeah. That's the only way it's going to happen, because otherwise all you're going to keep doing is band-aiding a broken dam. That's all you're doing.
Exactly how I kind of put it there. They should stop firing the upper echelon and just blaming it all on the NHL head coaches all the time, and instead hand out pink slips all around.
Players need to go.
Fixing the problem from the foundation on up, and that's what we're talking about here, because the foundation is cracked, guys. The foundation is not solid. It is sinking.
Yep.
Quick, fast, and in a hurry. And it's going to bite the Flyers in the butt. And they're next year, as early as next year, really, really bad. Yeah. Because, Giroux doesn't have too many years left to hold it together. And I'm not a super Giroux fan, but you're still relying on a guy that's 33 to lead the team in goals, lead the team in assists, and lead the team in points. And that's a problem.
And be your captain.
And be your captain. You have nobody even, catching up to him there. So
and
that's
nobody
a problem.
even in the wings. There's nobody in the wings. There's nobody in the development. There's nobody on the Phantoms. There's nobody in the ECHL that's even going to be, who's going to be the next guy hanging from the rafters or from the banner. There isn't those guys on this team. And I am not confident enough in ownership and coaching to get those players because they have proven that they cannot get those players.
I mean, you look at Wyatt Wiley too, and all that. He was over a point per game defenseman in juniors, and he's struggling now that he's turned pro. All these great prospects, and I think Shel Samuelson, player development coach, maybe needs to go. Mason Millman, another great defenseman, that's since he's turned pro has been kind of struggling as well. All these great prospects that we were waiting for are just drowning.
Yep.
At the pro level.
Yeah.
They're not. And what it's doing as well is preventing. There's nobody that's coming in and spending maybe a year and then jumping up to the pros. They're sticking around now 2, 3, 4 years in the AHL, and they're just becoming AHL players, and that's fine. Some people, you have to have them to have a league. Some people make a heck of a nice living out of being AHL lifelong players, career players. And heck, I wish I could be one of them, but you know what I mean? But there's so many players that are stuck in that mold there and not being able to progress that they're preventing other people that have been drafted from turning pro and having their fair shot.
Exactly. I agree with you 100%. And I think that is another issue that is another bottleneck or another hindrance here to this team. Look, I really think that this was another great article. I think it explains the issues about the current team. And I also believe that explains a lot about the future. And it pinpoints a lot of the reasons and a lot of the weak points of this team that need to be addressed, that have not been addressed. We talked about this already many times. And, when AV was let go and all the other stuff, that I believe we were in agreement that he should have been let go at the end of last year, because that would have changed how everything was done and built for this coming season. And maybe the Flyers wouldn't be in such a bad spot now if they would have gotten rid of AV, and then Chuck Fletcher would have made different moves and would have brought different players in, because then he wouldn't have been building around an AV Hayes system anymore. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I think is going to be the problem moving forward with this team, is that more than likely Yo is not going to be the coach for next year. I mean, when the general manager comes out and says that you're going to be the interim coach for the game tonight, that's not putting a lot of faith in that coach to be there any kind of long term, right? So if they're going to change the coach at the end of the year, right? So now you basically just wasted this entire season because you fired the coach after 25 games, right? You got a new guy in here. You don't have anybody coming up through that's going to help this team. You've got too much of your depth on the injured reserve or whatever the heck is going on. Okay, which that's another thing I don't understand. How is it that a hockey team continually has all these players with the same injury? Are they not working out right? Are they not doing the right exercises? Are they not doing the right conditioning? Why is it that every single one of these players has the same injury?
Something needs to be looked at deeper. You need to take a microscope at this team and really dive into the deep-rooted problems.
Yep.
Hey, I'd say Bruce Boudreau's won 5 games in Vancouver straight. since being hired as their head coach.
I know. And you know what? They were on the cusp of they were going to blow it up. They were just going to, blow up the team and everything, but they brought in a new coach and, hey, what do you know? The new coach looked at the team and said, yeah, I can make these guys work.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that, I'm not really trying to be as negative as I come across, because this is all born out of frustration. This is all born out of having higher expectations of this team and then watching this team just flounder and not make those expectations. You know what I mean? And so, and the best thing though is that I get to read these great articles from Lance. You know what I mean? And so that's what helps to ease the pain a little bit, because you speak the truth, man, and you call it like you see it. And I have a much deep respect and a great appreciation for that.
I appreciate it. But I would also say, too, to add to what you were saying, as much credit as I give Yeo to come in and take on the head coaching role now, and knowing that he's basically been said, like, hey, you got it for now, but nothing's guaranteed.
Right.
But let's not get too excited, guys, is what I'm trying to say. Yes, the team won 3 straight right now as we film this. They're playing Montreal. But the teams that they beat, the Golden Knights, they were injured. They had COVID. The Coyotes are currently 8th in the Central. All right. The Devils are 7th in the Metro. Montreal tonight is dead last in the Atlantic. All right. The Senators, who are coming up, are 7th in the Atlantic. These are teams that are going to be picking top 10 picks right along with us. So, yes, he's winning the games that they should be winning.
Yeah.
But let's see what he can do against Washington and Alexander Ovechkin. Let's see the tougher, and Pittsburgh, the tougher teams that are going to be coming up that are actually playoff contenders, or will actually make the playoffs, rather than the bottom dwelling teams that are looking to, fight for Shane Wright, exactly. the potential number 1 overall pick. So
why not? Why can't we be in the fight for that? You know what I mean? What?
Hey,
wouldn't that be nice, right? Just one time. Can we just one time?
Right.
If you look back at the whole, I'm just going to step on a soapbox here real quick. If you look back at the whole Nolan Patrick and Hischier thing, boy, that was a big step in a pile there, wasn't it? You should have taken Hischier. You had the chance. But anyway. So let's get into your second article here, Lance, because I think this kind of builds off of what we were talking about, as far as like bad scouting and some issues and problems and stuff like that. And I think that this next article basically just explains another major issue that I believe has to be addressed, or was either not addressed, or I don't know, but just posted the other day on flyersnittygritty.com, and big thanks to flyersnittygritty.com for all their support and all their help for posting Lance's articles and getting the Hockey Writers Inc. out there. So the Hockey Writers Inc. salute for that. Mucho apreciado. Thanks, guys. Just posted the other day here, with the extension given to both Sean Couturier and Fairby set to take effect next season, have the Flyers inadvertently chosen to move on from Claude Giroux. And all I have to say is, boy, it sure seems that way, doesn't it? But then again, maybe not.
It's tough to say, but let's break it down here. All right. As we all know, the team's long-tenured captain, Claude Giroux, who has spent his entire 15-year career playing for the Orange and Black, is set to become an unrestricted free agent. We talked about this before, guys. He will probably get a contract offer from multiple different teams. If he doesn't, he probably will get one from the Flyers as well.
Oh yeah,
but it's not going to be anywhere close to his $8,275,000 deal that he's been getting for the last 8 years. All right. in saying that, Giroux and Fletcher have held talks earlier in camp, and Claude must not have heard what he liked, kind of numbers he liked, because he's abruptly stopped talks and said he'd rather just play out the season and see where they be from, see where they go from there. So in saying that, Fletcher went ahead and signed Sean Couturier and Joel Fairby to new deals, substantial deals, mind you. So Joel Fairby got 6-year deal, $30 million. He's just 21 years old. I think that was a good deal for the leading goal scorer of last year, although it was only 20 goals. But it is what it is in a shortened season. But his cap hit's going to be $5 million. Not too bad of a signing for a guy who's leading your team in goals.
And still young, still has good upside, lots of potential.
Awesome. All the intangibles, right? He's going to be on that deal till he's 27, which is a good deal. We'll see where he is there. All right. But in doing so, his price tag currently is only $925,000, which is quite the bargain. But next season, that means it's a raise of $4 million plus. All right, $4,075,000 raise. All right, that's a heck of a raise. I wish I could get that raise. Right,
I'm in the wrong business, right?
Right.
I want to go from $925,000 to $5 million. I want to do that. How do we do that?
I'll take the $925,000.
Well, right, but no, but I mean, he must have been doing something right to get that kind of a raise. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Right. So, although that being a good deal, we also look at Sean Couturier's new deal. All right. Of course, he was the 8th overall selection and back in 2011. He's been on the team for 11 years now, guys. It doesn't seem like it's been that long.
No.
But he's been around the team for quite a long time. So they paid him a $62 million deal for the next 8 seasons. That is going to carry a cap hit of $7,750,000 for the duration. And they're going to pay him until he's 36, that kind of money, which is kind of mind-boggling. If you ask me, why are you going to sign him to that long? I would have been okay, hopefully, with more of a 5-year deal, seeing that he's already 29 years old. But be that it is as it may, that equates to a $3,416,000 and change raise over what he's making this year of only $4,333,000. So that's quite a raise as well. So when you combine those both those raises come out to be $7,491,667.
$1.1 million less than what Giroux's making currently right now.
Yeah. So yeah, basically, if you take Giroux, it's gonna be less than $1 million to pay Giroux. So that's a problem. That's a big problem, guys, because with both of those big deals, you have to potentially sign back Giroux. But I believe they inadvertently just pushed him out of the equation. If you look at it, the only big contract that's coming off the books this year is going to be Ristolainen. And I don't think that the team is going to just let him walk at the end of this year, especially when they traded a first-round pick in last year's draft, a second-round pick in 2023, and Robert Hagg for him. I think they're going to try to sign this guy back. And personally, I think he's my favorite Flyers defenseman right now. He's had a couple games where he struggled, but he's brought a lot of grit and toughness to this team.
I, too, have liked Ristolainen coming to this team as well. I felt that he was – see, this kind of goes back to that whole being coaches putting the right players in the wrong positions.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And so I believe with Ristolainen, he was not a top line defensive pairing. So putting him down in the second line defensive pairing was the best move to do that. And as long as you keep him there and keep him doing that particular job, he is going to excel. He is starting to get it. He's starting to pick it up. Okay. I watched him very closely in the Carolina game. Okay. And you're starting to see it click for him, right? He's starting to get it. It takes a little while for defensemen to get it. You know what I mean? But he's starting to see, you can see it. You can see it starting to come across his face. He's starting to see, oh, I should be here for this. You know, he's still making mistakes and he's still young and he's still figuring it out. But I think his being in Buffalo stunted him. Okay.
Sure.
I really hope that him being here in Philadelphia doesn't continue along that stunting process. But more so back to what you were talking about with the re-signing of Joel and with Sean, I'm going to throw it out here like this, okay? If I were the Flyers, I would be asking Giroux to please waive your no-trade clause. Because the best thing I think that the Philadelphia Flyers could do for him is to trade him to a contender so he gets a chance to win a cup. That's the best thing I think the Flyers can do. That's the only way I think they're going to get anything for him. Otherwise, he's walking. Because I'm going to tell you right now, my opinion, okay? The reason why he probably stopped the negotiations with Giroux is because, or with Chuck, is because Chuck said, look, Giroux, I got to shine this guy, and this guy, and this guy. I can only offer you this. And Giroux was like, well, let's see how the open market's going to be, Chuck. So I'm going to tell you right now, there are going to be at least one or two teams that's going to offer Giroux the money he's making now or slightly above. And he's going to go, and we're not going to get anything from him.
Well,
or out of him.
I think you're right in an aspect there. They should move on. They should rip off the Band-Aid, in my mind, because
let the flood happen. Just let it happen.
It's going to happen regardless. And this guy has been, you know, like him or not, carrying this team for a long time.
He has.
They really haven't given him anybody to play with until maybe Cam Atkinson, as of late, is the only guy that can, you know. Yager, yeah, but we talked about that before. How old was Yager? He was 40, I believe, when he came to the Flyers. You know,
or 39 or something.
Yeah, something like that. So, you know, rip off the Band-Aid, trade him. I don't want prospects. I don't want draft picks. Rather, I want NHL ready prospects. I want somebody that is either rookie in the NHL or about on the cusp of the NHL, ready to go, prime, leading the AHL in every statistical category, ready to go next season to be able to step in and a proven person here. I want to trade him to a true contender that is interested in winning a cup now, so that they will pay up. And I believe that is out there. Teams every year do this. And, you know, as we talked before, we haven't got the best results out of first round picks. You know, so I don't even want one of those. I want somebody that is already drafted, ready to go next season, or that's already been in the league that can come in and help next year, or for the rest of this year if you trade them at the deadline. There's far too many spots that are open. The Flyers only had 3 defensemen signed, with one of them being Ellis, who can't even get healthy enough to play in the games. They need to move on from Braun, who's 34. Keith Yandel's was okay, but he's 35 and he's up. Nick Seeler, you know, was great for a short time, but he's a fill-in guy. And basically Brassard, Thompson, McEwen, all have to be re-signed. Hayes has got to potentially go. It doesn't work. He didn't work. AV's system didn't work here. Didn't pan out. So is Hayes going to go? Is JVR he may be hot now, but he's very streaky. And you can't be that streaky when you make $7 million a year. And not a whole lot of people like to hear this, but Oscar Lindblom too. He's making $3 million a year. And yes, he had cancer and battled back from it. And by all means, I mean, that's an amazing feat in itself. But at the end of the day, it's still a business. And business is bad right now. Oscar is not producing either. So somebody has to come along. We got to sign a backup goaltender next year. Is Martin Jones coming back? Who knows? But there's a lot of holes that need to be filled next year, and not a lot of money to do it. So
exactly.
In that same token, Giroux is 33. He could go to a contender this year. You could get something for him. And there is a plethora of guys out there in the free agent market that are younger, that are maybe 26, 27, 28, that could be signed for 3 or 4 years to be your top producing player if you are able to get rid of somebody. Even potentially 5 years with a guy like, Johnny Hockey out there, or I like Max Domi even.
Bite your tongue.
Right. I don't care. He's physical. He's producing now that he has somebody to play with in Columbus. You look at his numbers and he's producing. If he's not the only guy that's supposed to be producing like he was when he played for Arizona. So there's a lot of people to be had out there. Not saying they're going to be, the second coming of Giroux, but they're going to be enough to be there for the next couple of years until maybe some of these young guys that we mentioned before, or maybe some of the guys you are able to get for trading Giroux are able to produce at that level. The Flyers have to do something. They have to rip off the Band-Aid and force themselves to either, produce or suck for a couple of years and really get and draft some actual talent.
See, that I think is going to be the issue, because you're not getting the kind of draft picks that you need to be getting when you're picking 18th, 19th, 20th in the first round. You're just not getting those players. They just don't exist. Okay. And now, as you get into the lower rounds of the draft, the percentage of players that are going to be good are much less. Okay. So now that's the pool you're picking from. So you basically filled up your cabinet with a pool full of these guys, right? Tweeners and fill-in. And the best athlete at the time. I'm so tired of hearing that. I want you, if we need a scoring center, then go draft one or go get one. I don't get it. Why do you have to try to convert somebody on the team? And what is the deal with drafting these guys that are under 6 foot and under 200 pounds? And then you expect to have this physical, deep, hard-hitting, shot-blocking, monster presence team when the guys are all 5'10", 5'9", 5'8", and only weigh 170 pounds.
Yeah, I mean, I think, if you're going to do it, do a full-on rebuild, like you said. Start from the ground up. You're looking at Edmonton. They didn't get Draisaitl. They didn't get McDavid from the stuff we're pulling. They stunk for years, and now they got actual talent because they drafted them early, and they were ready to step into the NHL early. Crosby, Malkin, the Penguins sucked for years to get them. Ovechkin, Washington stunk. That's how they got them. If the Flyers are going to do it, and what good is bringing back Giroux for another year? He hasn't been able to win the cup for us in 15 seasons. He's going to be another year older. He can't do it by himself.
With nobody built around him.
With nobody built around him. So rip off the Band-Aid. Let's move on.
Yep.
And restart. Let's go find the next Giroux, the next Eric Lindros, and really the next Bobby Clark, and really get somebody. I don't care if you need to trade the next couple first round picks. You haven't been doing anything with them anyway.
Right.
Let's trade down and get a sure thing.
Yeah, right. I'm with you on that. I'm so with you on that. Man, look, we have a passion for this team, and I think this passion shows because we care so much about this team, and we hate to see this team making these bad decisions and doing these things that is hindering the team and not allowing the team to be successful. In the end, is it just a game? Yep. And in the end, does any of this matter? Nope. None of it really matters. But let me just say this. Hockey is a team game and a team sport. And if you don't have a team that is built from the ground up, then it doesn't really matter who you have on your team and who you have as a coach, because you're not going to have a good team to begin with. You have to have a good foundation. Ed Snyder was the owner of the team, and I thought that he was the foundation of the Philadelphia Flyers. When Ed Snyder passed, that foundation went away. And this team has not had any kind of leadership along those lines since then. Okay. And so I feel that until this team gets that foundational leadership back, that this is what the Philadelphia Flyers are going to be year in and year out. Okay. There's nothing that's showing me that they're trying to be different right now. The team itself, the organization itself is not showing me that they want to be different. They're not showing me that they want to be better. They're showing me that they're okay with
mediocrity
and, picking.
As long as they're in the black.
Yeah, right. As long as they're still making profits, as long as there's still mostly people sitting in the stands and people buying jerseys, everything's cool. But in the meantime, now you got a huge following fan base that you're basically alienating, because you're basically telling them that we don't care enough about the team, that we're just going to be mediocre and we don't really care enough about the team. So, I mean, I don't know. So I just want everybody to realize that we do have a passion for this team, and we're not trying to be negative. We just have so much passion for this team, and so much passion, and we care so much that we really hate to see the team playing so badly and losing. Losing is never a good thing, no matter what you do or who you're with. You know what I mean? So hopefully they can find something to turn it around here, maybe. But I think, let me ask you one last question, Lance. Okay. All things said and done, and you were handed the keys to the kingdom. Lance Green, you are now the general manager of the Philadelphia Flyers right now. Go! What's the first thing you do?
I think you try to, like we said, move on from Giroux. Yeah. As much as everybody doesn't want to hear that, the fact of the matter is the team hasn't won a cup in 46 years now. Yeah. We're slowly creeping up to the likes of the Buffalo Sabres and the Leafs in Toronto. Yeah. Historic franchise that won so many cups, but it's been so long since they've been able to do it.
That's really a shame.
You do that. I think you look to specific small ball. We'll take like an Oakland Athletics approach at it, and I've talked about this before. When you look at teams like Tampa Bay and you look at teams like Carolina, and the people that they bring in, they're plus players. They're they're on the ice for far more goals scored than they are allowed.
Yeah.
Who Carolina lost so much in the offseason because they've been a pretty darn good team. Who they go out there and get on defense? A little known guy named Ian Cole. I believe he's a plus 122 for his career. He's a free agent this year, guys. He's a veteran who's won 2 Stanley Cups.
And he's probably pretty cheap.
Yep, and he's signed for, I think, just about $2 million. A fraction more than your favorite player out there, sir.
No!
So that's the type of deals we should be looking for in a short stay. We want to develop players, so I would be looking to get a whole new slew of coaches in the developmental ranks.
Yep.
A whole new slew of people in the scouting department.
Yep.
And at the AHL ranks. Something is wrong there, and like you said too, strength and conditioning. There's a reason why our players, everybody gets injured all over the league, but there's a reason why our players are considerably out for the same injuries over and over again. How many times is Sam Morin going to have to mess up the same, thing over and over again? Yes, it's weakened.
Yeah.
But you should be strengthening it as well to be able to make sure it's 100%.
Well, how many times have you seen Giroux with a groin core muscle? Hayes with a groin core muscle, sure. This player with a groin core muscle, this player with a groin core muscle. They all have the same injury, and it's like, well, what are you not doing?
Right.
Okay. Yeah. I understand that.
Shoulder injuries as well.
I understand that as a hockey player, you really have to have a strong core. And I also understand, too, that as a goalie, it's not a natural position to go down in the butterfly. So that will automatically mess up your hips. So I can understand that in goaltenders, okay, and having groin issues and stuff like that. But I have a hard time with these best athletes in the world that, are constantly having these kinds of soft tissue injuries. Does that mean you're not practicing hard enough? Does that mean you're not working out hard enough? I don't know. We don't have the answers. I'm not blaming it or pointing it at one thing. I'm saying it's a combination of a lot of things. Do you know what I mean? If, like you said, you're the general manager, the first thing you're going to do is get all new conditioning coaches, all new player development coaches. I'd get analytics and bring them in too, right? All new AHL coaches and all new scouting departments, right? Get people in there that all know hockey. Not saying that the people there don't know hockey, but we've seen what they've done over the last 10 years. And, well, quite frankly, I would probably get fired if I was doing a job that badly,
poorly,
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the Flyers organization does so much for their retired players, and that's great. But in the same token, not everybody's made out to be a coach. Not everybody's made to be a scout. And they like to reward their players, past players, with those positions. You can be Wayne Gretzky, but it doesn't mean he was a good NHL coach, and that's why he's not currently.
Right. That's why you sit behind the desk and a microphone.
Right. So I mean, that's what That's what I'm saying here.
I get
so
you, man.
we need to bring in some different talent in those aspects and look for the right type of players. That those analytics numbers that some teams are really excelling at, and looking and finding players that aren't even drafted that are becoming great NHL players because they slipped through the cracks in juniors and they were spotted by the right person.
Yeah.
Because they play the game the right way.
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and just to rub it at your nose in it, Max Domi is got 15 points in 17 games this year.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Yes. All right.
So,
So that's
yeah.
right up there with Braun playing 20 minutes a night.
Yeah. So
right. Okay. Well, listen, man. Any new articles up and coming?
I have a lot of notes and a lot of thoughts to start to develop some stuff, and I think I'm going to really put it to keyboard the next couple of days, and we should have something out there. I really like these two articles that we talked about this week.
Yes, sir.
And I'm glad the fans did as well. I hope that I can get that kind of reaction for every article, but we'll see what comes up this next week. So
for sure. Well, listen, we know that we spent the last hour talking about how we feel about this team, but I want to say this. Look, we're going to be here every week. We're going to be here watching this team with the same passion, with the same conviction, with the same love that we do every single other time. Okay. Just because a team loses doesn't change necessarily what we're doing here and how we're trying to give you the information we're trying to give you. We have this great platform here, and we really appreciate everybody being here and watching us and supporting us. And we couldn't do this without you guys. So really, thank you very much. We really appreciate that. And I just want to let everybody know that, we care about this team too. We are fans of this team too. We just look at this with different glasses. You know what I mean? And we see things a little bit more in detail, and it brings out sometimes the frustration because we know that the expectations of this team is so much better than what they have achieved over the last, say, decade. Do you know what I mean? And that brings out the frustration. So we're still here. We're still going to be doing it. And we're hoping for this team as much as they can to win as much as they can, because that's what we want to see them do, win. So, Lance, how can we follow you? Where can we find you? Where we can get all your great articles?
Sure. As always, guys, I'm on Twitter. You can always message me. I will darn sure message back. I try to answer any fan mail or hate mail, whatever the case may be. If you don't like an article or whatever, let me know about it too. And that's on LNG BASSIST. The number's 39. You can read all my articles on Flyers Nitty Gritty, SteelFlyers.com, BleacherReport.com, and Steel, why don't you show them that shirt? That is always found. Hockey Writers Inc. is always found on YouTube, countless other avenues, Apple Music, Spotify, the list goes on. So you can watch or listen to us any way you can. Yes.
That's right. Thank you very much, Lance. I really appreciate you doing all the great articles, all the great work you do here, man, for Hockey Writers Inc. I can't appreciate it enough. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Next week is going to be the special, our Christmas show, I guess.
Okay.
All right. So it's going to be the Thursday before Christmas. So that'll be the 23rd is when our next show will be. So we'll have a special Christmas show. So hopefully Mr. Lance will get his gifts by then. Hopefully. Thank you all very much for watching the Hockey Writers Inc. We'll catch you all on the next show.